My sister-in-law lied about having an affair with me, destroyed my business and marriage in a small town where everyone knew me. But when I sued her, the judge made her pay $83,000, and she was exposed as a liar to the entire town. I'm 28 years old. I run a business I built from scratch in this small town where everyone knows everyone, and what my sister-in-law did to me almost destroyed everything I'd worked to achieve. And when I say everything, I mean my marriage, my reputation, my clients, my relationship with my wife's family, literally everything. The thing is, Veronica, my wife, Victoria's sister, was always a problem, but I never thought she'd go as far as making up that we had an affair. I mean, who does that? Who makes up something like that knowing the damage it can cause? I guess I should start from the beginning so you understand how we got to this point. I met Victoria about 6 years ago, when I was just starting my business and she was working at a coffee shop near my office. It was love at first sight. You know, one of those things that sounds cheesy but actually happens. She was kind, thoughtful, supportive of everything I did, and from day one I knew she was the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. The problem was that from the moment we started dating, Veronica became a constant shadow in our relationship. Victoria had told me that her younger sister had always been complicated. Since they were kids, Veronica had this behavior pattern where she needed to be the center of attention all the time. If Victoria got good grades, Veronica would invent some drama to divert attention. If Victoria achieved something good, Veronica would find a way to ruin it or make it seem less important. There were rumors that Veronica spread about her own sister in school, petty and stupid things that a sister shouldn't do, but Victoria always forgave her because, well, she was her sister and her parents basically taught her that she had to protect and take care of her no matter what. When we started dating, I was like 22 and Victoria was 21. Veronica was 19 and had just started college. From the beginning, I noticed there was something weird about the way she acted with me. She'd send text messages at all hours, things that were kind of inappropriate but not obvious enough that I could tell her directly to stop. They were messages like, "I wish I had a boyfriend like you," or "Victoria is so lucky." That kind of thing that makes you uncomfortable but technically doesn't cross the line. You know what I mean? The worst part is that she'd delete them afterwards. I'd mention it to Victoria, and she'd check her sister's phone, and the messages weren't there, so it seemed like I was exaggerating or making things up. Fast forward 3 years, Victoria and I got engaged and started planning the wedding. My business was already doing well, we had stable clients, and I'd managed to build a solid reputation in town. In a small place like this, your reputation is everything, you know? People know you, talk about you, and if you lose their trust, you lose everything. I worked day and night to maintain that image of professionalism and honesty, and my clients trusted me because they knew I was a man of my word, a family man. The wedding was beautiful, but it was also the first big indicator of what Veronica was capable of. Victoria chose a simple but elegant dress, very classic and pretty. When the wedding day came, Veronica showed up in a bright white dress, like cream but almost white, with sequins and the whole show. She looked like a damn alternative bride. People were whispering. Some thought it was funny, others thought it was inappropriate, but Victoria didn't want to make a scene that day because she didn't want to ruin our wedding. Throughout the entire reception, Veronica was glued to me. She monopolized my time, got into all the photos, grabbed my arm when I tried to go to Victoria, and basically acted like she was my second wife or something. My parents noticed it, my friends noticed it, even some clients who had come to the wedding commented on it later, but in that moment I just wanted the day to end without drama. The first 2 years of marriage were incredible. Victoria and I moved into a house we bought together. Not very big, but perfect for us, and my business kept growing. We had a quiet and happy life, or at least we tried to. Veronica continued to be a recurring issue because she constantly needed something, whether it was borrowed money, help with her relationship problems, or just attention. Victoria always said yes, because her parents had raised her with that mentality that she was the responsible older sister and had to take care of Veronica no matter what. About 8 months ago, Veronica broke up with her boyfriend at the time. I think he was the third or fourth in 2 years. I don't know. I lost count. She showed up at our door crying, saying she had nowhere to go and needed to stay with us just for a few weeks while she found a place. Victoria looked at me with those, "Please, she's my sister," eyes, and I, like an idiot, said yes. I thought, how bad can it be? A few weeks, that's it. Spoiler alert, it was the worst decision we could have made. From day one, Veronica settled into our house like it was hers. She reorganized things in the kitchen, complained that we didn't have enough TV channels, and basically acted like Victoria and I were her roommates instead of a married couple doing her a favor. But the worst, the absolute worst, was the way she acted with me. She'd walk around the house in short pajamas, accidentally walk into the bathroom when I was getting out of the shower, sit too close to me on the couch when we were watching TV. I'd tell Victoria, and she'd talk to Veronica, but Veronica always had an excuse. "Oh, I didn't realize. Sorry, I'm used to living alone. I didn't think it was a problem." Those kinds of lies. She also started getting involved in my work in ways that were completely inappropriate. Sometimes I had to make business calls from home, and she'd butt into the conversation or make noise in the background on purpose. Even worse, when some of my friends, who are also business contacts, came to the house, she'd flirt with them shamelessly. My friend Trevor, who's like my partner in several projects, mentioned it to me several times. He'd tell me, "Man, your sister-in-law is uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable," and I could only apologize and promise she'd be leaving soon. The weeks turned into 1 month, then 2 months, and Veronica showed no signs of wanting to leave. Every time Victoria asked her about her plans, she'd cry and say she was looking but everything was too expensive or she needed more time to save. My in-laws defended her, of course. They'd call Victoria and tell her they couldn't believe she was being so insensitive to her younger sister, that we had a big house, and what did it cost us to help her a little more? Victoria felt guilty, and I felt trapped because I didn't want to be the bad husband who kicks his sister-in-law out on the street. Everything exploded about 4 months ago. It was a Tuesday night, like 2 in the morning, and I couldn't sleep because I had an important presentation the next day with Edward, one of my biggest clients. I went down to the kitchen to make myself some tea or something to help me relax, and Veronica was there. She was wearing a silk robe that was basically see-through, and when she saw me, she smiled in a way that immediately made me uncomfortable. She said something like, "I knew you'd come down," with that tone that left no doubt about what she was insinuating. I tried to ignore her, started heating water and acting like nothing weird was happening, but she came closer. She put a hand on my chest and told me she'd always felt something for me, that I should have been with her instead of Victoria, that she understood me better. A whole bunch of crazy stuff that literally left me speechless. I removed her hand and told her to stop, that I was married to her sister, that this was completely inappropriate. She tried to kiss me. I pushed her away gently, but firmly, and told her to go to her room and never do something like that again. I ran upstairs, woke Victoria up, and told her exactly what had happened. Victoria was in shock, couldn't believe it, but she believed me because she knew her sister and knew what she was capable of. That same night, we went down together and told Veronica she had a week to find another place to live. Veronica started crying, saying I was lying, that she'd just come down for water and I'd misinterpreted her, but Victoria didn't believe her. My in-laws called the next day, furious, saying we were insensitive, but Victoria stood firm. Veronica left 5 days later, not without causing a whole scene first. She cried, screamed, broke a couple things in her room, and left saying we were going to regret it. I thought that was the end of it, that we could finally get back to our normal life. I had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks after Veronica left, Victoria got a call from her. I was in a meeting, so I wasn't present for that initial conversation. But when I got home, Victoria was waiting for me with eyes red from crying, not from sadness but from pure fury. She told me that Veronica had called to confess that she and I had had an affair the entire time she was living with us, that I had seduced her, that we'd been sleeping together behind Victoria's back, that I'd told her I was going to divorce to be with her. A completely made-up story, but one that Veronica told with so much detail that she even mentioned specific dates and places. The first thing I felt was panic, not for myself, but for Victoria. Would she believe me? Would she doubt me? But Victoria looked at me and said, "I know it's a lie. I know my sister, and I know what she's like. I believe you 100%. I can't explain the relief I felt in that moment. My wife, the most important person in my life, believed me without doubting for a second. We sat down and talked for hours about what to do, and we decided we weren't going to let Veronica get away with it. But Veronica didn't stop there. She called Victoria's parents and told them the same story, with even more invented details. My in-laws called me screaming, telling me I was a liar, a manipulator, that I'd destroyed their family. They accused me of being controlling and abusive, with Victoria, said I had her brainwashed, and that's why she defended me. Victoria tried to reason with them, but they were completely on Veronica's side. They told Victoria to leave me, to come back home with them, that I was a monster who was just using their family. Things got worse when rumors started reaching town. Veronica wasn't satisfied with just destroying my marriage. She also wanted to destroy my business. She called Trevor, other friends of mine she knew from having seen them at the house, and started spreading the story of the supposed affair. In a small town, rumors fly, you know? Suddenly, clients who'd known me for years were looking at me differently. Some asked me directly if it was true. Others just started distancing themselves. Trevor called me and told me that Veronica had contacted him on social media to tell him everything, trying to get him to believe the story too. What hurt me most was when I found out that Veronica had contacted Edward, my most important client. Edward runs a big company and is very careful about his image and the people he does business with. Veronica sent him a message telling him the affair story and painting me as an untrustworthy man without principles. Edward called me to ask what was going on, and I had to explain the whole situation to him, sitting in my office, basically begging him to believe me. Fortunately, Edward is a smart man and knew me well enough to know that something didn't add up in Veronica's story, but the damage was already done. The seed of doubt was planted. Victoria and I realized this wasn't going to stop unless we did something drastic. I hired a lawyer, Mr. Bennett, who specializes in defamation cases. I told him the whole story from the beginning, and he immediately started gathering evidence. We recovered some of the messages Veronica had sent me years ago, the ones she thought she'd deleted forever. But it turns out that with the right technology, nothing is ever completely deleted. We had Trevor's testimony and that of other friends who'd seen Veronica's inappropriate behavior. We had the house security cameras, which, although they didn't capture the interior, did show comings and goings, and proved that I never left the house at strange hours or did anything suspicious. Attorney Bennett first sent a cease and desist letter to Veronica, basically telling her to stop with the lies or face legal consequences. Veronica ignored it completely. In fact, after receiving the letter, she intensified her efforts. She started posting indirect things on social media, stuff like, "When you trust someone and they betray you in the worst way," or "People aren't what they seem," obviously referring to me without mentioning me directly, but clear enough that anyone who knew the situation knew what she was talking about. That's when we decided to proceed with a formal defamation lawsuit. Bennett filed the papers, and Veronica was officially notified that she was being sued. The lawsuit included not only defamation but also harassment, because what she was doing went beyond just telling a lie. She was actively trying to destroy my life and my business. My in-laws went crazy when they found out about the lawsuit. They started with attempts at emotional manipulation, calling Victoria every day, crying, telling her how could she do this to her sister, that family doesn't sue family, that they were disappointed in her. Victoria held up like a champion, told them over and over that Veronica had lied and had to face the consequences, but they didn't want to listen. According to them, I was the villain who had tricked Victoria into believing my lies and was using my money and position to destroy Veronica. One Sunday afternoon, like 2 months after filing the lawsuit, my in-laws showed up at our house unannounced. They knocked on the door like crazy, and when we opened, they came in without permission and started yelling. Victoria's father was pointing his finger at me, telling me I was trash. How dare I sue Veronica? That they were going to support their youngest daughter no matter what. Victoria's mother was hugging Victoria, crying, begging her to stop all this, to think about the family. I had to ask them to leave my house, and when they didn't voluntarily, I threatened to call the police. They left, but not before telling me this wasn't over. Victoria and I made the hardest decision of our lives. We cut contact with Veronica and with Victoria's parents. We blocked numbers, social media, everything. My parents, on the other hand, supported us completely. They saw from the beginning what Veronica was, recognized that she was lying, and told us to do what we had to do to protect ourselves. The legal process took about 4 months total. There were hearings, depositions, presentation of evidence. Veronica hired a lawyer too, obviously paid for by my in-laws, and tried to maintain her story, but the evidence against her was overwhelming. The recovered messages showed her inappropriate interest in me for years. The testimonies from Trevor and other friends demonstrated her behavior. The security cameras proved I'd never been alone with her under suspicious circumstances. Plus, Attorney Bennett managed to prove that Veronica had a pattern of similar behavior with other men. She'd tried this before with a friend's boyfriend and with a professor at college. Finally, the court ruled in our favor. The judge found Veronica guilty of defamation and harassment. The sentence was harsher than we expected. Veronica was ordered to pay $83,000 in damages, an amount that covered damages to my reputation, potential business, losses, and legal costs. Additionally, the judge ordered formal retractions to be issued. Veronica had to post on the same platforms where she'd spread the lies, a statement admitting everything was false and apologizing for the damage caused. We also got a restraining order. Veronica couldn't come within 200 meters of us, couldn't contact us in any way, and if she did, she'd face criminal charges. That order was valid for 3 years, renewable if necessary. What happened next was almost poetic in its justice. In a small town, people talk, and news that Veronica had been found guilty of defamation spread as fast as the original rumors. Suddenly, people who'd believed her story realized they'd been deceived. Some of my clients called to apologize, others just went back to working with me like nothing happened. Edward, my big client, gave me an even more important project, I think as a way to show he trusted me. Veronica, on the other hand, became a social pariah. Nobody wanted to associate with someone who'd been proven a liar in court. She lost friendships, potential jobs, and basically any credibility she ever had. I heard, not firsthand obviously because I no longer have contact with that part of the family, that she had to move to another city because the situation became unsustainable for her here. My in-laws never apologized. To this day, I suppose they still believe that somehow I manipulated the entire legal system to destroy their daughter. Victoria is in therapy, processing all this, the loss of her family, her sister's betrayal, everything. It's hard for her. And there are days when I know she misses her family, especially her mother. But she also understands there was no other choice. They chose Veronica's side despite all the evidence, and that says a lot about who they are. My business has completely recovered. In fact, it's better than ever, because people saw that I was willing to defend myself and my reputation, and that generated respect. Trevor and I just closed a big project, and things are going well. Victoria found a job at a company she loves, and although she still has difficult days, she's much happier without the toxicity of her family. Last week, Victoria and I were having dinner at home. Something simple, pasta with wine. And suddenly she told me, "You know what? We did the right thing." Sometimes I feel guilty about suing my sister. But we did the right thing. I took her hand and told her yes, we did. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't about revenge or being cruel. It was about defending ourselves. Veronica tried to destroy our lives with lies, and we simply refused to let her get away with it. And that, I guess, is enough for now.